Hey there. I am busy packing, getting ready to head from Germany and fly back to India tomorrow evening. So I've been busy and didn't get to make all the videos I thought I was going to make this weekend. I also had some stomach issues and some other stuff going on because traveling makes me a little nervous these days. And I ate something weird the other day that had a little problem. So I didn't get to I just wasn't feeling very good, so I didn't make the time, I should say, to do it. Um, and that's okay. To me, a lot of times there is so much information out there about the yamas and the niyamas. There are some really great books. Deborah Adele has a really great book called The Yamas and the Niyamas that tells principles or ideas behind each of the principles that really fit into everyday life. And sometimes it's a little bit overdone, not meaning overdone because people shouldn't follow these concepts, but overdone in that there's so much information out there. The market is saturated. You can Google it and find all this stuff, and you can kind of, through all of these different sources, find out how you feel about these things. I don't need to sit here and tell you how you're supposed to feel. That's not my job. My job is to teach you a practice, which could be asana, it could be mantra, it could be something like this, that will slowly and surely bring an awareness to you of how you're feeling inside your physical body, but also how you're feeling in your mind, how you're feeling in your energy. Um, that's the idea behind all this stuff. That's when yoga actually happens, is when you get lined up energetically. So it's not something that you have to think about too much, because once you start practicing asana, at least in the Ashtanga system, they believe that if you practice asana in the right way with the breathing, with the bandhas and the drishti that takes your indriyas, your sense organs back inside, so you're becoming this aware, deeper, cultivating, I should say, this deeper awareness of what's going on inside you, feeling emotion wise, that you can then slowly start to naturally think about ahimsa, naturally think about satya, naturally think about the next in line, which is asteya. So I'm not here going to tell you you shouldn't steal things from people. That's not, like I said, that's not my job. Asteya literally means non-stealing, but it also has behind it ideas that are deeper than just taking physical things from other people. The idea of um, time, like I'm stealing your time by, I've maybe told you this story 30 times and I'm doing it again, or I have a big idea of what's going on in my own mind. It has nothing to do with you. And so I want you to hear about it, but you're not interested, and I can tell that. And you may have even said it, but I still didn't quite hear you. Not honoring other people's ideas of what's going on is also stealing from them. So if I continue to tell the conversation or to have the conversation anyway, when it's not really a conversation, it's very one sided because I'm just blah, blah, blahing. I am stealing time from you. And time nowadays, to most people, is a very short lived thing. Everyone feels like they don't have enough time. There are also ideas that time is a construct of humanity. We have set time into these little segments in a row, and so we think of it as a system that actually exists. But think about when you're feeling great, like if I'm doing my yoga practice, just to keep with that theme, if I'm doing my asana practice in the morning, if I get in the right space, the time doesn't seem to exist. And when I look at the clock when I'm finished, it took like an hour where it should have taken me an hour and a half because I wasn't sitting there thinking about this is this. So in some ways I'm leaving the present moment because I'm not worried about time. And in the West, time is a very, very, big thing to worry about. But in other ways, I am so in the moment that time seems to stop. And so that is, that's one way to think about it. But if your bullshit coming out of your mouth is making other people sit there and take your time, you are stealing from them. There are many ways in which this could manifest in your existence. with you doing it to someone else or someone else doing it to you. That's why the level of awareness you're meant to cultivate with your asana practice, with your pranayama, with your bandha drishti breath, is supposed to keep you aware and on top of knowing these things. So you're not doing this. No, we all screw up. We all do things and we don't get everything perfect every time. And that's quite okay also. It doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be what it is. And that's it. So if you have ideas about it and want to discuss it, we can discuss it in another video. Maybe I can do a live one day. But also you can comment and we can talk about it. The next one, I might go ahead and do a couple in one video because there are 3 left of the yamas, and the next one is Brahmacharya. Brahmacharya is a big deal in a lot of systems because when a Western person thinks about, you want me to be celibate, blah blah blah. Well, Brahmacharya can literally mean celibacy. Not literally, figuratively, because the literal translation of is walking with Brahma, on the way with Brahma. Brahma is God. Brahman is the existence of God that finds itself inside of us as the Atman. So you could be so lined up with God that you don't care about sex as much, which tends to happen with you as you practice yoga for a long time. It can be that like myself, I had sort of a sex addiction in my 20s and 30s. Even though in my 30s I was doing asana practice, it was hard to get rid of because what it started doing is bringing it up to the surface, making me more aware of it, and I started getting more active and doing more things that were harmful to myself. If you're doing something that becomes harmful to yourself, number one, that goes back to ahimsa, right? But it also means that you're not lined up with that God that is outside you, but also permeates inside you. If you're in alignment with that, you're going to not do things that are harmful to yourself, unless possibly that you're helping someone else. And there might be a bit of selflessness, you're trying to create selflessness by worrying less about yourself while you're taking care of them, which I don't know that, depending on the situation, that might be called for. Very often that's also not called for. But the idea is, if you're walking in alignment with God, whatever that means, or with your inner being, with your inner self, you aren't going to have reckless sex. You aren't going to just go out and fuck everybody, which happens often in the gay world, in the American life, in many countries in Europe. But there's still a lot of different systems, spiritual systems that are set up to keep these things at bay. But the thing is also, when you're young and you're going to church and they're telling you, don't do this, it's wrong, of course you want to do the exact opposite thing. So the idea of it isn't to force it upon your child or have it forced upon you, or you to force it upon someone else in your life. The idea is that you're not attached to it. And so when you are so lined up through, say, to keep the theme, doing your asana practice, doing your pranayama, doing your meditation, and you're really lined up with this voice that's inside, this inner being, you won't be as pulled toward the attention that used to pull your focus and make you want to have illicit sex. And, we also realize, when you're in a relationship with somebody, and a relationship doesn't mean boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, marriage, I'm not talking about that. I just mean any sort of interactions with another human where it becomes a relationship because it's happening daily and that kind of thing. You have to be aware with what you're putting your energy into and what energy you're inviting into your life, into the situations in your life. Because if you are just allowing anyone around, it can suck the energy from you, and you don't want that. You also don't want to voluntarily give away your energy when someone is trying to suck it, because they may not even realize that they're doing this kind of pulling action from you. So you need to be aware that that's happening and rectify the situation to the best of your ability. It's being aware of the interactions you're having. Say I'm in line at a coffee shop and someone chats with me about a tattoo that I've got, or some one of my mullets, which I actually have not one on because I just took a shower and I'm packing, so I'm busy. They always ask about my skull mala or something like that. uh, you know, Sometimes there's a little thing behind that, but then oftentimes there's not. There's just a curiosity and an interest because it seems like it's something from a culture they don't understand, and they're interested about it. Here's a good example. I used to go, when I was in St. Louis, I used to go sit at Starbucks a lot in Southtown, which is I used to teach across the street at a yoga shala there. And so I, at the time, had a very long beard. I was fully Sikh, so my beard was down to my navel, and I wore a turban. And I wore a lot of white clothing or matched clothing because my turbans were different colors and I would match the clothing with that. And so I was sitting there, and these people often talked to me because they were curious about it. Because, when they see a turban, oftentimes in the West, they think Muslim. And this was after, like 10 years after 9/11. So there was a bit of a phobia around that. And then very seldom there would be a person who would understand that that type of turban I was wearing was from the Sikh community. So people would talk to me, ask me questions, curious, because I'm obviously a white person, and here I am with a turban on. But there was one incident that was just absolutely beautiful. I was sitting there one day, and I had my shoes off and my feet crossed up, and I was reading a book. I often would sit there and drink a chai and read whatever book I was at, and then take some time and write in my journal and kind of process my thoughts and my feelings for the day, for the few days, however often I went. And this little boy walked in with his family. He was probably 4 or 5. He could talk fairly well. And the family got in line, and the line was pretty long. And I was sitting kind of close to the door inside because it was really hot outside. And if you know St. Louis, in the summer, it's like hot and humid, and you want to sit inside in the air conditioning. And he kind of ignored them because he saw me, and he immediately came over and sort of leaned up on his elbows and looked at me like this, like these are my legs. And he leaned up on my legs and looked at me, and he was just looking at me. And he was just a beautiful kid, like the blue eyes, the kind of dishwater blonde hair, and just really innocent. There was an innocence there that made me want to invite him. And I just looked at him and smiled, and he looked at me and smiled. And he asked me, what's on your head? And I told him, about the turban and that stuff. And he said, why is your face like that? And I said, my face. He said, this. I said, oh, my beard. He said, yeah. So I explained to him, is that your dad there? And he said, yeah, yeah. And his dad was clean shaven, except for some little scruff on his chin, I think. I remember it was a long time ago. Something like that. And I said, if your dad didn't shave, do you see your dad shave with a razor? He said, oh, yeah, yeah. Sometimes. So I got the idea every couple of days he saw his dad shave. If your dad stopped shaving, his beard would look like this. And he said, really? Oh my goodness. So he just was so curious with this bright-eyed innocence and love that was just, I was so, felt so warm that day to receive that from him. And so he turned around and just kind of leaned against my legs and was watching his family in line and put his elbows up on my leg, and was leaning against me totally. And he was, anyway, the family, the mother, I guess, or maybe this aunt or something, came over and said, honey, you come over here. You don't bother that man. But I said, no, he's fine. If we were just having a nice conversation. If you want to get in line. And so she left him there. So she obviously felt some innocence from me. I wasn't doing any harm to him. And so it just was, when you're open and you're lined up with that inner being, little things like this can happen for you, and that's when you're doing the right thing and you're going the right way, when these little beautiful moments in life happen. And to me, Brahmacharya is that, lining up inwardly inside yourself to where your actions and your energetic output feels such a way that even small children are drawn to you, animals are drawn to you. it was just a really lovely moment, and it it's sorry, it makes me a little speechless. It makes me a little teary because it's really beautiful. And I was in the Midwest, so oftentimes it was a lot of nasty words spewed at me because there's a lot of ignorance there also. Not just in the Midwest, everywhere. But the people there were not very tolerant of the turban and stuff. So when you have a moment like this, you have to appreciate the beauty of it. So there's that. And I think that's where I'll leave it today because that's about 15 minutes. I need to finish up we got one load of laundry, and so I can finish packing my clothes so that tomorrow I have less to do because I have one more class in the morning. I'll take another shower before I leave because I leave in the evening, and just get as much done as I can right now. Well, that does bring me to aparigraha, which is the last one, so the last yama. So it could be something good to talk about, but I don't like to go too long, over 15 minutes. So I think I'm going to stay right there and keep in mind maybe this evening I'll make that aparigraha one, or when I get to India. But I hope to do it before then because now it's fresh in my mind. Anyway, have a great day. Hope you received my feelings on this subject well, and have your own ideas cultivating inside your brain. Have a great night. Bye.